The cafe was overflowing, noisy, and warm with the scent of fresh cinnamon and roasted coffee. Every chair was taken, except the one across from her. Eileen was lost in her laptop, editing recipes for the small online bakery she ran from her one-room apartment. She didn't notice footsteps approaching until a shadow fell across her table. "Excuse me," a deep, gentle voice said. "Do you mind if I sit? It's full everywhere." Eileen looked up, and for one strange moment, the busy cafe seemed to pause. He wasn't just handsome, he looked exhausted. His suit was expensive but wrinkled, like he had rushed here without thinking. His eyes were warm, but carried a storm inside them, and in his hands a small toy car. It was such an unexpected detail that Eileen felt something tug inside her heart. She hesitated only a second before smiling softly. "Of course. Please sit." He gave a grateful nod and lowered himself into the chair with the weight of a man carrying 1,000 unspoken worries. "White medium star," the stranger with the toy car. He placed the toy car gently on the table, almost protectively, as if it belonged to something far more precious than it appeared. Eileen tried not to stare, but her eyes kept returning to it. He noticed and gave a small, tired smile. "My son's," he said quietly. "I'm on my way to pick him up, but he loves this thing so much I carry it everywhere. Makes me feel like he's close even when he's not." Something about the way he said it, it wasn't bragging. It wasn't dramatic. It was simply honest, vulnerable. Eileen's heart softened. "I think that's beautiful," she said. "You must be a great dad." He didn't smile. Instead, his throat tightened and his gaze lowered. "I'm trying," he whispered. "But it's been hard. Harder than I expected." She didn't push. Kindness sometimes meant silence, not questions. After a moment, he introduced himself. "I'm Zayden." "Eileen," she replied. A simple exchange, yet something about it felt like the beginning of a quiet miracle neither of them saw coming. "White medium star, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cry." Eileen returned to her laptop, trying to give him space. But moments later, she noticed his shoulders shake slightly. He wiped his eyes quickly, embarrassed. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "This isn't like me." Eileen's voice softened. "You don't need to apologize for being human." Zayden exhaled shakily. "I lost the custody hearing today," he confessed. "My ex-wife, she's moving my son to another city. I'll barely see him now." Eileen froze. The pain behind his words wasn't loud. It was quiet, trembling, and devastating. Her chest tightened. She had grown up without a father. She knew that ache, knew that longing. Without thinking, she reached across the table and gently placed her hand over his. Just a light touch, a simple human gesture. His breath hitched, but he didn't pull away. "You're not a bad father," Eileen whispered. "You're a hurting one. There's a difference." His eyes lifted to hers, filled with a gratitude deeper than words. White medium star, the cafe crowd never noticed, but their hearts did. They talked for nearly an hour. About his son, Arizona, a 3-year-old obsessed with cars. About Eileen's dream to open a real bakery someday. About the strange loneliness that sometimes followed kind people. At one point, he chuckled softly. "I can't believe I'm telling all this to someone I met 5 minutes ago." Eileen smiled. "Sometimes strangers listen better than the people we know." His eyes held hers for a second longer than necessary. And something shifted. Quietly, softly, like the beginning of a sunrise. White medium star, the girl who helped everyone except herself. Zayden noticed it before she did. Her hands were calloused from baking. Her laptop was old and cracked. Her notebook, filled with ideas and recipes, was worn at the edges. "You work hard," he observed softly. She laughed gently. "It's what keeps me going." "But who keeps you going?" he asked. The question hit her unexpectedly. No one, she thought. But she didn't say that. Instead, she shrugged and said, "Life doesn't always give us what we need. Sometimes we just have to make do with what we have." His expression softened in a way that made her chest ache. "You deserve more than just making do," he whispered. White medium star, a call that changed his face. While they talked, His phone buzzed repeatedly. He ignored it until one call didn't stop ringing. He answered reluctantly. Eileen didn't mean to hear, but his voice dropped, raw with panic. What do you mean Arizona has a fever? Why didn't anyone tell me? I'm 10 minutes away. Don't let him cry alone, please. He ended the call abruptly, hands trembling. Eileen instantly stood. Go, she urged gently. Your son needs you. But Zayden froze. I can't leave without thanking you, he whispered. You gave me more than a seat. You gave me a moment where I could breathe. She shook her head. You don't owe me anything. His voice softened into something fragile. No. But I owe you kindness. And someday, I hope I can repay it. He grabbed the toy car and rushed out. And Eileen watched him go with a strange, heavy ache in her chest, like she had just met someone who would change her life, but she didn't know how or when. White medium star, a forgotten notebook. A hidden secret. 5 minutes later, the barista called out. Miss, you left something. Eileen turned. It wasn't hers. It was Zayden's notebook, the one he had been writing in when he sat down. Small. Black. Leather. Expensive. She hesitated. Should she open it? But curiosity and concern won. Inside the first page, in elegant handwriting, she read, Things I want to fix in my life. Be a better father. Find someone who makes home feel like home again. Learn to trust people, starting with myself. Eileen's breath caught. This man wasn't just hurting. He was healing, trying, fighting. And beneath the list was something that made her heart stop. A small drawing of the cafe table. 2 cups. Her laptop. And a note. Today, I met a kind stranger. Eileen closed the notebook slowly, her heart shaking. And she whispered to herself, I hope you come back. She didn't know yet. He would. With a truth that would flip her world upside down. The truth that the man she'd comforted wasn't just a father. He was a millionaire CEO the whole city recognized, except the one girl who saw him simply as a man seeking hope. She thought she was just sharing her table with a tired stranger. She didn't know her small kindness would rewrite his entire life, and hers too. The story continues. The rain had only grown heavier outside the cafe, drumming on the windows like restless fingers. Inside, the warmth wrapped around the customers like a blanket, and yet, despite the cozy atmosphere, Lydia's heart fluttered for reasons she didn't understand. Across from her sat the man she had invited out of pity, or maybe something deeper. The man who looked exhausted, drenched, defeated, but somehow carried a quiet strength. Aiden, he had said. Simple name, soft voice. But now, as he stirred the coffee Lydia had assured him was already paid for, she sensed something was off. He wasn't just tired. He was hiding something. Are you sure you're okay? Lydia finally asked gently. Aiden inhaled slowly, then looked up with kind, tired eyes that had clearly seen too much. I'm managing, he said. Thank you again for letting me sit here. Most people wouldn't have. She laughed nervously. You looked like you needed a human to be kind today. His gaze softened, as if her words touched a bruise deeper than skin. More than you know, he whispered. A phone call that changed her entire view. Just then, Aiden's phone buzzed on the table. He flinched, visibly, and turned it over so he wouldn't have to see the screen. Lydia noticed the wallpaper. A little girl with curly hair, smiling with missing front teeth. She's beautiful, Lydia said warmly. Aiden swallowed hard. That's Emma, my daughter. Oh. Lydia smiled. Is she waiting for you at home? Aiden hesitated. And that hesitation told Lydia everything. Her mother passed away 2 years ago, he said finally. Since then, it's been just us. And childcare isn't cheap. Neither is food. Or anything else. Lydia's breath caught. She hadn't expected this. He didn't look like a man falling apart. He looked like a man trying desperately not to. But you have a job, right? She asked softly. Aiden huffed a humorless laugh. I used to. Lydia fell silent. She didn't know what to say, but her heart knew how to feel. The cafe owner recognized him, And everything changed. Aiden excused himself to take a call outside, leaving his coffee half full. While he stood near the window, the cafe owner, Mr. Rafi, stepped toward Lydia with wide eyes. "You invited him to sit with you?" he whispered urgently. Lydia frowned. "Yes, why?" Mr. Rafi leaned in, even closer. "That man, do you know who he is?" "No." She studied Aiden through the glass. Rain clung to his shoulders like guilt. "That's Aiden Cross," the owner whispered dramatically. Lydia blinked. I don't know who that is." Mr. Rafi's jaw dropped. "He owns Crosstech, the biggest innovation firm in the city, worth billions. He's on the news every month." Lydia froze. Her breath stalled. Her heart tripped. She looked at Aiden again, this time not seeing the drenched, exhausted father, but a man who carried the burden of an empire. But why was he dressed like that? Why was he here, alone, at a cafe with wet shoes and a second-hand jacket? Mr. Rafi lowered his voice even more. "The rumors say after his wife died, he disappeared from public life. Stopped going to meetings. Stopped caring about money. Some say he even gave half of his company away to charity." Lydia's heart twisted. Suddenly the tiredness in Aiden's eyes wasn't just exhaustion. It was grief. Deep. Heavy. Lonely. When he returned to the table, Lydia felt something shift inside her, a compassion sharper and deeper than before. "You okay?" she asked softly. Aiden nodded, though his eyes glistened. "Yeah. Emma just said she misses me." It broke her. Completely. A confession he never meant to say. "I'm sorry I took your table," he said suddenly. "I didn't mean to intrude on your day." Lydia shook her head immediately. "You didn't intrude. Honestly, I'm glad you sat here." He smiled, small, tired, but real. "I'm not used to people being kind without wanting something in return." The sentence hit her like a punch. Lydia leaned forward. "Aiden, some people help because they know what it feels like to be hurting." A pause. A breath. A crack in his armor. "Is that why you helped me?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "Yes." Aiden looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. Not the girl with rain-frizzed hair, crooked glasses, or a thrift store sweater, but someone rare. Someone gentle. Someone he didn't know he needed. A twist she never expected. Just as Lydia gathered the courage to ask more, a black SUV suddenly pulled up outside the cafe. Two suited men stepped out and rushed toward the door. "Aiden." "Sir," one of them exclaimed. "We've been looking everywhere. The board is in an emergency meeting you need to attend. The investors are threatening." Aiden held up a hand to silence him. "I'm having coffee," he said quietly. The men blinked, confused. "And," Aiden continued, turning to Lydia, "I'm not leaving until I finish talking to her." Lydia's cheeks warmed. The bodyguards exchanged looks, shocked, confused, perhaps even offended, but they backed down. Aiden returned his gaze to Lydia. "Can I see you again?" he asked gently. She stared, speechless, stunned. He quickly added, "Not because you know who I am now, but because you were kind before you knew." Lydia's eyes softened. "I'd like that," she whispered. Aiden smiled, wide, genuine for the first time that day. Glowing star moral of the story. Kindness given without expectation becomes the kind of love that transforms even the most broken hearts. And sometimes, the person you help in silence is the one who changes your life the loudest.